Hello, everyone, and you welcome on another appointment with POP, Progress Over Perfection. Today, we talk about NDIS provider, Native Earth. I'm here with Joshua McDonald, and he is a founder of this wonderful program to help people to have a better life. Hi, Joshua, how are you?
I'm good, Mauro. How are you, mate?
Very good. Thank you to be here today. Can you tell me what is Native Earth?
Yeah, great question. So Native Earth is a service that has evolved for me over time. I've spent a lot of my years working with, I suppose, disadvantaged people, people with disabilities, Indigenous people of all different ages in the education department, different not-for-profit organisations, and I've been quite heavily involved in the spiritual kind of concepts of life, meditation, sound healing, yoga. And I've also worked for the Department of Sport and Recreation as an outdoor ed instructor as well. And I've done lots and lots of travel in my life as well. Been all through Southeast Asia and India, Patagonia, Argentina. Hiked lots of mountains. I've done my basic mountaineering course up in Manali in India, which was a month-long course, and done all New Zealand. And yeah, just I've had a great life and lots of experiences. And I'm 33 years old now, and through my, I suppose, life experiences, I was fortunate enough to land myself in working with people with disabilities. And I used to live in the Kimberley up in Western Australia, working with the Indigenous people. And after the 5 years of kind of working up there for different not-for-profits, and I got back down to Perth, I was doing sound healing full time. So I was, playing the didgeridoo, the crystal bowls, gongs, flutes, and creating a soundscape for people to meditate in, to release in, to let go in, to discover themselves in, and process all of their worries, their fears, their emotions. And I love to hold space for people in this way. I love playing music. I'm not musically talented. I can't read music. I can't play in a band. I probably could if I tried, but it's not something that comes natural to me. But sound healing is an intuitive experience where you're playing with vibrations and frequencies, and you're creating a soundscape using technology and a loop pedal with speakers, and you're creating this soundscape of vibrations. And every time you do it, it's unique, it's different, it incorporates a different intention. And that process for me was like a meditation, and it was really good at drawing myself into my own emotions and feelings, and being able to kind of make sense of how I feel and how I show up every day, just to maintain that clarity of who I want to be and how I want to show up. And I was
Mm.
fortunate enough when I moved back to Perth to start working with people with disabilities, and I got on this app called Mabel, and I was an independent support worker, just reaching out to different people, getting jobs, and helping people out in the community socialize, domestic kind of work, cooking, shopping, all this sort of stuff. And I just loved showing up to people's homes and meeting them, and just helping them in their day and having conversations. And it's a really personal experience, and I'm really good like that with one-on-one. I enjoy that. And through Mabel, I actually found one client in particular who, through him, I was introduced to his mother, who is also an NDIS business owner. And she sort of helped me understand a bit more of the NDIA, and how it operates, how it works. And through her, I got another job through her business with another client of hers, who was a bit more high needs. And I was supporting him for quite a few months, and the mother of the child approached me privately and said, "It's quite rare for our son to have a mentor, role model like you that he gets on with, that's still with him, that's been with him for so many months, because usually people kind of transition in and out because of his complexities." And she offered me the opportunity to take him on a trip, on a respite trip. And I'd only ever done support work at this stage, so I really had no idea what it was all about, what it entailed. And she showed me how to invoice and what codes to use within the price guideline and the ins and outs. And yeah, I went on this experience, this weekend getaway from Friday to a Monday. I planned the whole experience with the client, and we went down to Margaret River and went kayaking and abseiling 40 meters down the cliff in Margaret River, and went mountain biking and hiking up on the Cape track, and camped in a swag. I had a bus at that stage, so I was camping out in the bus, and we just had the best time ever. And yeah, I got back from that experience, and I sent the invoice in, and I got a pretty decent payout at the end of it. And I thought, there's something here. There's a business here, because this is combining all my experiences in life, my outdoor adventure, recreation, my ability to work with a diverse group of people. So I was really confident in myself to be able to kind of roll something out in this sector, based on that experience that I had and how successful it was. So yeah, I started to look into starting a business up and what that entailed, and Native Earth finally came about for me. And when I was doing my sound healing, it's important to sort of backtrack here. When I was doing my sound healing, what I really wanted to do with that was create a community movement that was a mindful one, that got people together and regularly engaged people in meditation and mindfulness. However, nowadays and age, to do this sort of thing within the sort of health and wellness industry or sectors, you do have to have quite a large following and be quite popular, and in order to make decent money out of it. And I wasn't able to sustain myself or grow. And financially, that was what led me into working in the disability sector and discovering all of these great things. But when Native Earth came about and I started to create a model based on respites, I still held in my mind that concept of community movement and wanting to um, put myself in environments or situations where I'm able to help people with their mindfulness and help them discover what mindfulness is and what mindfulness works for them. And so in my trips that we do, it's a one-on-one experience. I now have 9 facilitators. We have there's 3 administrations. So, over the last year and a half, I've grown Native Earth quite quickly, quite large. And that's proven success of the model. And what we do with these one-on-one experiences is we curate the experience, we personalize it. So we use support shifts with the participants to engage them in conversations that kind of stimulate them around what potential new experiences they could be doing for themselves. And that could be action adventure. It could be, dining experiences. It could be going and getting a massage. Someone might really not like touch, and so getting a massage for them might be a really big thing. So that's that kind of pushing people's mental, physical, and emotional capacities simultaneously. It's all about, for us, it's all about giving back their funds to them. So the NDIA is taxpayers funding. We acknowledge it as that. We try and use that funding as strategically and as efficiently as possible for the client. So when we are planning these experiences and we're talking about what it is that they could be doing on these trips, we're really starting to paint a picture of potential within themselves. And then we go on the trip and we do it, and the facilitator will have a phone and they'll take videos and photos of the experience, and we'll then make a professional video at the end of that to give back to them as a reflection. And we also use the data, the video, the photos to inspire and motivate these individuals to do things in their life like what we would all do: wake up and go to work every day, or go into the kitchen and do the dishes from the night before, and clean yourself and have a shower in the morning before you start work or before you start your day. And we really use these experiences as a motivator to create a healthier lifestyle and to be on top of these things so that people can have a bit more independence. And at the end of the day, with the NDIA and the funding and what it's allocated for, that is what it's meant for. It's for independence and helping individuals become more independent in their lives. And so now here I am, Native Earth. We do these trips. We now do regular community access social supports as a model as well, which we'll be rolling out next month. And the community movement side of it is bridging the gap between aged care, NDIS, and mainstream community. So Native Earth has a big vision of connecting in with Cold Nips, which is a community movement that gets people down the beach and doing sunrise dips and coffee catch-ups and silent discos, and they do breathwork sessions and yoga sessions, and they get, I think this Friday there's one down Scarborough, and they're going to expect to have 2,000 people down there for a live DJ sunrise alcohol-free party, right? So really great. And so my goal with Native Earth is I want to bridge the gap and get NDIA and even aged care people down there to experience that holistic fun, and just provide that space to be able to help individuals build a community around them. And that's my way of doing it. So it's using the NDIA, it's using that funding model, and the specific services that we provide, which are reflected on my skills and what I've done in my past, to be able to provide, I suppose, now the opportunity to further enhance people's micro communities that they live in and strengthen it.
Mm, mm. Wow, it look like very complex. The things that you put together for uh, these people seems very complex and but thoughtful and designed for those people. Can you tell me a little bit more who are the people that use your service?
Absolutely, yeah, great question too. Because I'd like to expand on that. Is we cater the NDIA sector. That's what our models are focused on. But our service is actually for anyone that wants it. So our facilitators are worldly people, equal life experience to my own, and very strong-willed. And they're essentially their mentors. And so if a parent or family member or an individual wishes to engage their child or themselves into a mentor capacity, going out into the world and being adventurous and getting into nature, our staff, that's what we do. That's what we're trained to do. That's what we love to do. So I just wanted to sort of clarify, we're not just working in the NDIA sector, and we're not just in the aged care. We are a service, a respite retreat service for anyone that wants to use us. And we work with people. We work with
Mm,
their funding capacities. Not everyone has access to taxpayers' money that, they've got to pull it out of their own pocket with hard-earned money, and we get that and we respect that. So we work with people to be able to engage them with people such as myself and my other staff who are who have those strong-willed mindsets to be able to kind of ground people and help them make sense of life and make sense of themselves. We're not all of us are counselors. We're not all trained. Like some of my staff are. Some of my staff are nurses as well. But we all have that ability to be able to just sit down and have an honest conversation with people and just help them in that capacity. So in terms of the NDIA, the typical kind of clientele that we would get is anyone who's in the NDIA. It doesn't matter if you're, quadriplegic, paraplegic, in a wheelchair, or if you're FASD, ASD, or ADHD. Doesn't matter what your diagnosis is. We're a service that can support you, and we find out a way to do that. But predominantly for us, we do work with a lot of mental illnesses, so anxiety, depression, and then people that are on the spectrum. And so ASD, ADHD, as I said before. Um, and yeah, so for us within the NDIA, we look at people's plans. So the NDIA, they have an NDIA plan, and in that plan, there's goals that they create, and they create those plans. Someone's goal, or one of the goals, could be in the plan that they want to socialize and they want to make friends. And so we would work with them to that capacity to then enhance their ability in their own life to do that. And so when we plan the trips, we would go, cool, they want to socialize. Where are we going to socialize them? With who? What's a safe way of doing this? What do they like? Do they have a behavioral management plan in place? If they get anxious or if they want to leave, what are our opportunities to engage them to be able to communicate with us, let us know that they need that to happen. As you say, it is or it can be very, very complex. But that's, I think, what I enjoy about it as well, is that there are so many different types of people in the world, and we all operate differently, we all think differently, we all behave differently, and we all react differently, specifically based on our own life experiences, and traumas that we may have experienced. And to be able to navigate and understand that, not only of myself but of others, and then help others navigate that of themselves, that's a really rewarding place to be. It's a really I feel privileged to be able to do that for people. So that's typically the kind of clientele that we're working with at the moment, is within the NDIA, and working with kind of mental illnesses and ASD and ADHD clients as well. So, but yeah, as I say, anyone could be in a wheelchair. You could have back issues or neck issues. You could whatever, doesn't matter what it is. If someone wants to use our service, all they need to do is approach us, and we'll make it work.
Very, very interesting. Can you, for example, if I come to you because I want to have an experience with you,
Yep.
what do you do um, to design something for me? What are the questions that you ask me? What you need to know, and how you design something that can be good for me as a client?
Absolutely. Great question. So typically what we do is we do a meet and greet phase. So once we get the person or the participant or the client on board to our system, we'll then engage them with a facilitator and do a meet and greet. And once that meet and greet's established and the relationship there is enough for them to then go and do support shifts together, we actually use those support shifts for the facilitator and the participant to get to know each other and build up that relationship even further, that trust. And then usually we do minimal 4 hour support shifts every time. So we'll go out into the community with a participant. We'll go, help them with their everyday life, shopping, coffee, whatever it might be. We'll go do something fun. But the facilitator is engaging in a conversation to find out what their hobbies, passions, interests are, and starting to get an idea or a picture of this individual. What's their current capabilities or capacities? What are their interests? What are things that they might want to do but didn't think they can do? What are some locations that they want to go to or that they haven't been to before in Western Australia? South, north, east, inland. What is it? So this information, we get the facilitator to note this stuff down, and this kind of like building a bit of a profile on the individual. And we do as many support shifts as it might take for that relationship to be really strong, really solid, and the trust to be there. So you don't just want to send someone away with a stranger on a multi-day night excursion before they even know each other, because we want the experience to be worthwhile. We want them to get out of it as much as they can, and that trust really needs to be there in order for that to happen. So once we get that sort of profile, that picture really clear in our minds of who this person is, what are their goals, what are their NDIA goals, then we start creating experience and an itinerary for them. So we work with them by asking questions, going, "Cool, you want to go to Kalbarri, you want to go up north. It's a good time of the year for it. What are some things that we can do up north? Okay, well, there's stargazing experiences. There's you go out on a boat to a seal island and you can do a snorkeling experience with seals in Jurien Bay, for example. Could be going to Louncestone on the buggies and doing the quad bikes or the buggy or the four-wheel drive truck. Um, could be dining at a cafe that might do a crayfish. You never had a crayfish before, right? So we're sort of like getting the map
Mm.
up and we're looking at different locations, destinations, and activities, and we're going, well, how can we fill out this itinerary? If it's a Friday to Monday, pick them up at 9 a.m. Friday, drop them off at 3 or 4 or 5 p.m. on the Monday. Between then and then, what are we going to jam pack in that experience? And that's what it's all about for us, is giving back. Like, okay, obviously we need downtime, but what activities are we going to be doing, and how are we going to maximize this experience for this participant? Abseiling in Kalbarri is another one as well. Um, Hiking expeditions, things like that. Um, yeah. So sorry, I just had to backtrack and remind myself of the question that you just answered there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that essentially, I think I just answered it. So that's essentially what we do. That's how we sort of work it out with you. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you actually try to help people to have this experience that otherwise probably they will never have, because disability or because personal situation.
Yeah. 100%. That's exactly right. And
Mm.
look, a lot of in the industry, so respite, the word respite means that you're giving someone a break. So typically, when you take a participant on a respite, the main carer of that person is having a break while we take them away and do this experience with them. And when we give them back to their main carer, it could be a parent, a guardian, could be another support worker agency providing regular carers for this person. We're really just taking them away from their normal environment, giving them some fun, some adventure, so that when they go back, their support team is rejuvenated and ready to sort of get back into. Um, So it's really
Yeah.
important that we understand what respite is, and that we use these experiences in a way that most other organizations don't. So typically an organization, if they were going to send someone away on a respite, they would book out a random hotel room with a random staff member. It could be on the fly, short notice. This person needs to go away now because everyone needs a break. It's fight and flight, blah, blah, blah. So, they'll put, and if we go on the example of it being a child, a 13, 14 or 15, whatever year old child, you can imagine if that child gets picked up by a stranger that they've never met before to go on an overnight, even if it's just an overnight excursion or overnight experience, put into a random hotel room and ordered a Domino's box of pizza. And then the next day at 9 o'clock or midday or whatever, they get dropped back off to their home again. That feeling that person or that child will be getting is neglect at the end of the day. It's the feeling of not being wanted because they are in a situation where they've caused discomfort for their main carers. And the response to that is a stranger picks them up, takes them away to give them a break before they get sent back into them again. Nothing's been fixed, right? And trauma's just been dumped on this child because they're just going out with a complete stranger that they don't know. So we're trying to create an experience or a new kind of way of using respite money and funding to provide a really personalized experience that the individual is going to get something out of it. And they're going to go back with this mindset of going, oh my God, I did all these fun things, instead of just being like, oh, how was your trip? Oh, I just stayed in a hotel room. Did you talk to the support worker? No, I don't know who they were, right? Like you don't get anywhere with that. But, when you send someone away to Margaret River and they've done this and this and this and this, and they've got this excitement for life, they're going to be a lot better when they go back into their normal life. They're going to have this excitement. They're going to be on this adrenaline rush. And they're going to be more responsive. They're going to be more considerate. They're going to be more respectful because they're living. They feel like they have a purpose. And that's what it's all about. And so, we love what we do and it's great. And it's not always easy, like going away for an overnighter with someone with high needs can be really challenging. And going away for a Friday to Monday with someone with high needs, you come back from that and you need half a week off because you're just shot, like it can be mentally the engagement that you need to put in to make sure the environment is safe and comfortable. And this could be something as small as the window could be down or the volume could be too high on the car radio, or the temperature coming out of the aircon could be too cold. And someone with ASD might not know how to communicate that like someone that doesn't have ASD. And the result of not being able to communicate and these things not being fixed can result in them punching you in the face or destroying your car or something really big. That's their way of expressing themselves. And having that understanding that people that have these different minds, these different makeups, mental makeups, we need to understand how they are. It's not they need to fit into us, as we need to understand them. And that's what we love to do. We love to create and provide these opportunities where we're the ones doing the work to understand what their needs are, not trying to convince or tell or make them change who they are to suit us, which is what generally the world does, and that's why people feel left out and end up getting isolated. Even if you don't have a disability or a mental illness, it doesn't matter. This is how the world operates. And so that's why we do mentorship. It doesn't matter who you are. We're people that have an open mindset, people that are accepting, people that are intuitive. We understand that people are different and we work with people to make them feel comfortable.
What is the biggest challenge that you find in people during mentorship?
So you're talking about participants, like when we take our clients away on a trip?
Yes. So yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of responses to that question. It very much depends on the participant or on the client. I'll just say the word client. I don't like the word participant. Participants used in the industry, but I really don't like it. So our clients or members, I like to say, the Native Earth members. If they're a 13 or 14-year-old ADHD, ASD, and they go away on a multi-day night excursion, their mental emotional capacity could be a lot less than a 25-year-old or a 30 or a 40-year-old with anxiety or depression. And so what you have to deal with in that instance can be very different. How you would engage with that member or that client would be very different. If it's a young child, that child needs to go home and there's no other option but to take them home and it hasn't even been a night, you just got to take them home. It is what it is. If they miss their parents or they miss their family, you can't, if someone's feeling uncomfortable, you work with them as much as you can compassionately, but there comes a point where you need to make a call. And that might be that you need
Mm.
to cut the trip short. It might be that you need to change something dramatically in that trip. That could be changing the accommodation because it doesn't work for the participant. And you can imagine that you get somewhere, you rock up to an Airbnb at, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you walk in, participant has a hissy fit because they don't like the color of a couch and you can't fix it. And you can't drive 8 hours home from Esperance or Calgary. So you've literally just got to find another accommodation and convince them to go to a different one and pay for it. And you just lose the funds. But that's what we do. We work with that. We understand that people have these complexities, you could say. But there's so many different challenges to it. But for me, that it's not even a challenge. It is a challenge, but I enjoy it. It's fun. It's fun to
Mm.
being able to do this, and I think that's why we are successful in what we do, and we are growing so fast. Is because not only me, but every other Native Earth facilitator, we enjoy what we do. We enjoy the complexities and the differences that we experience in terms of how people behave and react to the environments that we put them in or that they put themselves in. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that do choose to do these experiences. Um, yeah, yeah,
Mm. Very, very fascinating. Thank you to doing this. I think is one of the work that you really need a big commitment. Need to really have in your heart the real happiness of other people. So if you're selfish, you cannot do this kind of job. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, you say that you work with indigenous community.
Mm.
What are the challenge for this community? What is the biggest challenge for them
Yeah, sure.
in this moment in
So,
time?
look, I think to be able to identify the biggest challenge with the Torres Strait Islander Indigenous population, I would probably refer not to my current business in terms of what we provide, but my life experience as a whole. When I worked in the Kimberley, I was out on a remote community called Yearly Community. The people out there are called Bunyandi people, and they live on Gidja country. Beautiful country. It's right smack bang in the middle of the Mueller Ranges. So Halls Creek and Fitzroy Crossing. It's on the Great Northern Highway, smack bang in the middle, in between Broome and Kununurra, and just 5 kilometres off the main highway. I was out there for about 8 months. I was doing community youth engagement, youth engagement and community engagement support. And this was actually when COVID hit. We were actually in lockdown out there. It was an interesting experience. But from that community, I moved up to Derby, and I worked for the Clontarf Foundation with Indigenous men in the mainstream schools, high schools. So I worked in Derby High School all the way from the year sixes through to the year 12s. And that was like a mentor for them in school. And then I moved to Broome, and I worked for the PCYC as a programs coordinator. And so I managed a small team, and we would provide a wraparound service for after school care for anywhere between 50 to 150 kids. So it got pretty wild at some points, all Indigenous. And so my experiences in working with the Indigenous people from remote communities through to small towns through to Broome, a slightly larger remote region. Look, a lot of the things that they face, it's very, very complex, incredibly complex. And I am respectful that I am a white, privileged male talking on behalf of the Indigenous people here. But from my experience, it is definitely a lot to do with feeling displaced. So, Indigenous people, there is a huge issue with alcohol as a coping mechanism for Indigenous people. And there is a lack of support out in remote regions that can really help Indigenous people one-on-one tackle with their traumas, with their issues. And everyone's different, and it's so complex, and you can't just say these are the issues or this is the issue. It's to the individual themselves. But as a whole, alcohol plays a huge part in the youth growing up being disadvantaged and continuing that cycle. So, um, sort of now, what I like to do now with the service that I'm in is work with kids, work with youth, one-on-one capacity, and be that kind of guide or that mentor to educate the Indigenous youth on the importance of being able to open up and communicate and trusting in their ability to express themselves. And
Mm,
I know how difficult this can be, particularly for an Indigenous person. You know, like if you go down to the beach in any coast along the West Australian foreshore in Perth on the main city and suburban areas, you likely will not see an Indigenous person on the beach getting a suntan or enjoying the water or anything or frolicking like any other person would, because there is that displacement. They don't feel comfortable because of the stigmas and the social prejudice that gets put on them. And it's not that it's wrong, it's just like in the sense of what's happening to them and what other people are saying. It's quite accurate, in fact. But what's wrong is that people don't take the time to talk and understand not just the Indigenous culture as a whole, but people one on one. To put a hand out and lend a hand and try and help. And I
mm,
think that there is, and this is what I'm saying, like it's so complex, the situation that's happening. There's no fix. It's time. Time. The more time that goes by, the more individuals that lend a hand and the more individuals that take that hand, the better things will get. That is the solution. And it could take generations and generations and generations for improvements to come. But the improvements inevitably at the end of the day come from a one-on-one basis. And the individual needs to make choices for themselves, not the governments need to make a choice for them as a whole and give more favors
mm,
or more benefits or more money or more programs or more this. They're great things at the end of the day, programs and financial support, this and that, like they're great things, but that's not what's going to fix anything. It's just maintaining. That's all it's doing. So yeah, I feel so privileged working with Indigenous people and getting to know them and understanding their culture. And you know, like when I was saying before, when I work with people that have ASD and there's a different language that they use when they feel uncomfortable about something, they don't communicate it the same way. Indigenous people are exactly the same. They don't have a mental disability or some sort of difference in how their minds are made up. Just culturally, they're different to us. And
mm,
for an Indigenous person to not respond to you doesn't mean that they've said no to something or yes to something. Like they will be talking to you through their body actions or reactions. And that is something that you can only learn when you live alongside them, when you put yourself in their environment, when you take yourself out of mainstream communities and you go into a remote Indigenous community or you go out into a remote region of Australia where predominantly, statistically, there are more Indigenous people. That's where you start to learn and understand that language and that behavior. And it's a beautiful thing to learn, and you can communicate to different people like that. You feel confident in yourself to create and hold a safe space based on those language differences.
mm. Can I ask you, and this is up to you if you want to answer. I'm going to edit this part. If you don't want to answer, I understand. Um, when people say, because me as a foreigner, I try to understand what is the actual problem with between the white population and the indigenous population. Okay, and uh, sometimes I feel astonished when people say, well, we conquer the place and they should just stop to whinging about what happened and just accept what's going on. And what do you think about when people say this kind of things?
Okay, this is a really good opportunity to throw a business mindset into the scenario. So it's going to seem like a bit of a sidetrack answer to here, but I'll lead it back into what you've said. So through owning a business and building a business and having a company and all the complexities that come with that, And what I've learned through listening to podcasts and books and talking to different people, you need to have what's called a growth mindset. And this is a really important thing. If you essentially, a growth mindset is your ability to see an issue, see something that is complex, and not get bogged down by the complexities, but find solutions. And to then put into practice or put into play things to fix that or to change that. And you might need to do that 5 times, 10 times, 20 times on something before you get it right. But to have the ability of evolving into a mindset that has that capacity to think like that, like how are you going to fix something? How are we going to grow from something? How are we going to learn from something? And when you hit a wall, you knock that wall down and you go around it and you try again a different way. If this mindset was applied to your question, there would be no issues. If every individual was not educated, if every individual had the ability to foster this mindset of um, stop looking at the past as a weight and start looking at possibilities into the future. If we're wasting our capacity, our mental capacity, looking back at something and using it as an excuse, opposed to looking back at something and learning from it, but moving forward with solutions. Does that make sense? That's how we're going to stop getting bogged down in these mindless conversations of if this didn't happen or if they didn't do that. Or if, and that's the other thing is they and them and us. If humans started looking at themselves as equal and cultures and tribes and skin color and eye shapes and all this stuff weren't different and we're all just us, there would be no problem. But you can't do that because out of respect of people's individual cultures, you need to acknowledge the differences there. But if an Indigenous person, look, at the end of the day, an Indigenous person suffers a lot more than, for example, me, a good-looking, privileged white male. I'm not ashamed to say it. I have hit the jackpot in life in that sense, and I acknowledge that. And if an Indigenous person was to say to me, "Oh, I can't do this, because of my background," they're only stopping themselves at the end of the day. It's not actually that white people are preventing them from succeeding. It's that their mindset isn't evolved or isn't at a place where they're able to self-motivate themselves into greatness or into a better person or into a bigger thing, whatever. So, look, it's really what the question you asked is quite complicated in the sense of what your brain can go into a million tangents thinking about a million different things of how to answer that. But I think if we just bring ourselves back and simplify it to look into the future with a growth mindset. As soon as someone refers back to the past, project something positive into the future. Or if you're going to go back into the past and look at something, ask the question, what do you think we've learned from it? Not as an excuse as to why things are the way they are or why things never will be the way that they could be, but what have we learned from it? And it's not a blaming thing. If someone starts to blame, I'll just walk away. It's just a waste of time. It's not their fault that it's not an individual's fault that they think like that. This is society. This is generation of thinking that we need to break. We need to change the whole paradigm of how humans kind of think in this regard. But I think that's the way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you think Australian are doing enough to recognize the wrongdoing that was done in the past toward the indigenous community, or we can do much more about that?
Look, people that are living now have no say in what happened before. We aren't the people that did that. People that are being born now have nothing to do with the past. You might be connected to a family tree or a generation of families that had something to do with it. And people may still very well be alive that had something to do with it attached to those families. But as an individual right now, you really have nothing to do with that. And so it's really important that we don't blame ourselves and we don't, as a whole, as a race even, for why things are the way that they are, because that's not going to help anyone. That's just going to further strengthen the poor me or the victim mentality, which I think is the cancer of why. That's the reason why governments keep giving more money to cover up that mindset that's not been resolved. at the end of the day. It's like people need to take accountability for their own ways, their own actions, their own being, and not use the past as an excuse, but use the past as an ability to learn as you move forward into the future without blame, without regret, without resentment, with reverence, you know? So right now, if I was to say to you that what's the issues right now? The issues right now for Indigenous people in remote communities are that the types of support that are built up and delivered into those areas, they're not very outreaching, and they don't target specifically that one-on-one kind of mentorship. It's still done as a group or done as a whole community kind of thing. And for example, there's an organization called the EON Foundation, EON, and they're a brilliant not-for-profit organization that go out into remote communities and they build vegetable herb gardens. They work on harvesting. They cook their own fresh produce. They are honestly one of the most amazing not-for-profit organizations, and they also provide opportunities for Indigenous people out there to get licenses like truck licenses, dozer licenses, digger licenses, a part of that process of building and growing these vegetable gardens so that they can be self-contained with their fresh produce, which is great because it's usually super expensive out there. So
Mm.
in regards to like a whole community approach, brilliant, love that. As soon as you start getting involved with mental issues or illnesses or circumstances, you can't have a community approach. You've got to narrow it down to one-on-one. You've got to be able to have someone that's trained or have a mentor or have a counselor or whatever go out one-on-one with someone and have this regular one-on-one engagement to foster that independent thinking, right? And that independent thinking leads to independent decision making. The independent decision making leads to not going to jail, not drinking alcohol, da 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 da. So what the issue is now is that we don't have programs that offer that, particularly in remote regions. It's always just large community focused initiatives. And they're great and they do have a positive cause and a positive effect, but it's not going to fix anything and nothing's going to change anytime soon unless we start having a bit more of a specific targeted approach to helping people sort of empower themselves through that one-on-one. That's my
Mm.
advice. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's my
Yeah.
advice based on my experience out there.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, look, it's a very complex conversation, like many other complex conversations that we have today in our societies and around the world. And thank you to be open to discuss with me about this. I understand a bit more what is the um, what can be actually
Yeah.
one of the solution of this situation between the indigenous community and the white community. Now we are close to end this interview. If people want to work with Native Earth with you and want to have contact with you, where they find you?
Yeah, great. So you can check out the website, www.nativeearth.co, C-O-E-N, not com. Everyone gets that wrong. Or you could email me, joshua@nativeearth.co, or you could call me on 0417 549 466. And yeah, at the moment, we're looking for more team members, more community support staff, facilitators, as I say, we like to call them, to be able to do support shifts and these multi-day night excursions. And sort of leading into next month, we're gonna launch our support program, which is going to involve 3 community events a week. When Native Earth host community events, we might go down to Scarborough Beach and cook up a big barbecue. Might go up into the hills and do some hikes as a group. We might go do pottery or art classes together. And this is all a part of our support model that we'll be launching out. So if you're a participant or someone on the NDIA looking or seeking support, and this sounds like something that's in alignment for you, then reach out. And if you're someone that's interested in getting involved in the sector, and you're outdoorsy, you're adventurous, you've got an open mindset, then give us a shout and we'll get that process started to get you on board, because it's a growing community, and there's going to be a lot coming out of it in the near few years. And I should mention actually before we stop, is we do have an app coming out called Tribe, which will be probably officially launched next year. And Tribe is an independent ABM contractor supporter app through Native Earth, where we're going to be training and linking individuals up to be able to support people through the app. But there'll be perks to the app to being able to go on multi-day night excursions and join Native Earth community events by being registered and signed up to the app. So there'll be a lot of perks to it. So get your eyes and ears open for that one, because that's going to be a game changer
Mm.
within the industry, I believe. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to leave all these details in the description. Thank you, Joshua. Everyone listening to this podcast, if you like it, if you're looking for help from Native Earth, making contact with Joshua, if you like the podcast, please share it with someone that maybe can benefit, because here at Progress Over Perfection, we try to progress and not looking for the perfection, because life is not about perfection, it's about getting better. Yeah. So thank you, see you next time.